Eric Peterson with Arbrisk here. Today's weekly business tip, we're going to talk about some of the common entity types that you can use to set up your tree care company. Now, the most important, in my opinion, the most important risk management decision you can make for your company is how you set up or establish your company. There are 4 types we're going to talk about. They're the most common. There are other ones that your attorney or accountant may offer as a suggestion to you, but the 4 most common entity types are sole proprietorship, partnership, LLC, and corporation. They all have little differences and nuances, but I'll take the first 2 and kind of lump them together: sole proprietorship and partnership. Essentially what this is you're operating as an individual or 2 individuals, 2 or more individuals, a partnership, but you do not form anything legally. You basically are operating as the business as yourself. You might use a DBA, a doing business as, but basically you're doing everything with your personal assets on the line. So if you're operating as a sole proprietorship or a partnership with someone else, be very careful, because if something happens from the business standpoint, yes, you might have business insurance, but your personal assets could come into play after those business business insurance limits are expired. So if you don't have, or if you don't want your personal assets on the line, we want you to either form an LLC or a corporation. An LLC, limited liability company, essentially does that. It limits the liability to you as the owner by putting the liability onto the business as a legal entity. You get a federal tax ID number. You create this legal entity with the state that you live in or work in. And basically from there, the business stands on its own. Anytime you have employees that are driving your vehicles, you want to make sure that all your vehicles and equipment get titled and purchased by the LLC, so that there's no crossover. There's no way to pierce the corporate veil. I'm sure you've heard that phrase before, because there's a complete separation. The business is over here and your personal assets and personal self are over here. When you look at a corporation, there are 2 different main categories. You have a C Corp or an S Corp. This is a way to differentiate how you're taxed. C Corps are usually for larger organizations, and you get taxed both as an employee or an owner of the business, or I should say an officer of the business, but also the business has personal income taxes or business income taxes. So C Corps, you get taxed both ways. On an S Corp, everything flows down to you as an individual. You get taxed like you were as a sole proprietorship or an LLC. So talk to your accountant about that. Talk to your attorney about which entity type is going to be the best for you. But ultimately, please set up a legal entity for your business and operate under that. Separate out the bank accounts, separate out all the equipment, make sure the business owns the assets, make sure the business is running the business and all the different transactions for that. That's what helps you limit your liability, so you don't lose your home if you have an accident on the job site. Also, another thing to think about are your workers' comp laws within your state, because if you form an LLC with a couple people, most states automatically exclude the requirement for owners of an LLC to have workers' comp coverage. It's something that you need to be aware of. Maybe you want the workers' comp coverage for you. You'll have to elect that or select that. So just be very careful what the work comp laws are in your state on the entity type, because it determines on how the coverage plays. So if you have further questions about it, reach out to an Arbrisk team member. We deal with this stuff all the time. We're not attorneys, we're not accountants, but we know the basic risk perspective or risk management ideas behind these different entity types. We can have a conversation with you about that further. Thanks again for watching all these videos, and please remember to be safe out there.